Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This morning I'm going to speak on two questions from the book Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. The book has been brought here and just happens to be opened on a page where a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about South India is featured, so I'll take that as a divine indication that as I'm here in South India, I should read this. In a lecture given in Bengal, he, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, stated, "The most merciful Sri Chaitanya Dev preached all over South India the glories of Radha Govinda. Yet today the people there are in the same condition as before Sriman Mahaprabhu came. Therefore," it's better to have it like this, so it's not covering the face. "Therefore, it is again required to preach to South Indians to revive their original consciousness, because they have completely forgotten whatever Sriman Mahaprabhu had instructed. They say, 'We are rational and intelligent men, not sentimental like Bengalis.' But they have no interest to hear about Sri Sri Radha Govinda. When we installed the deity of Radha Govinda in our Ramananda Gauriya Mutt in South India." Who knows where that is? Anyone? Ramananda Gauriya Mutt at Kovur, which is just opposite Rajamandri, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to Ramananda Rai. When we installed the deity of Radha Govinda in our Ramananda Gauriya Mutt in South India, local people opposed us and placed so many obstacles. They wanted us to instead install the four-armed form of Lord Vishnu. The people of Madras are busy with discussions of Parthasarati, not nowadays, and do not know about Radha Govinda Leela. They are very unfortunate. They have no qualification to see the beautiful service of the Supreme Lord that was inaugurated in North India by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates, the 6 Goswamis. If you want to know more, read the book. More about that. What hope is there for you? What hope is there for me? So, the first question. In volume 1, page 1 of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, there is a verse quoted from Padma Purana, beginning with Sri Brahma Rudra. So, I'll read out the whole sentence. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's advent in Puri is particularly significant in light of a statement in Padma Purana, Sri Brahma Rudra Sanaka Vaishnava Kshiti Pavanaha Chatvaraste Kalo Bhavya Yutkale Purushottamat. In Kali Yuga, the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, which are purifiers of the earth, will appear in Purushottam Kshetra in Utkal, Orissa. So I didn't elaborate on why it is significant. I can do so now, briefly. I didn't elaborate because I thought that it was self-evident. Of course, that's because I wrote the book. To me it would seem evident. But for one who hadn't, this is the first paragraph on page 1. They may not understand that. So the answer to I'm getting several questions by email, and Gaur Bhagavan Prabhu, wherever you may be. Okay. You can bear it in mind that when questions come in, you can ask the questioners, send an email back to them and say, please read the whole book, and then if you still don't know the answer, then you write me, because in many cases the answer will come by reading on. You can't put everything all on one page. Another comment is that hopefully not everything may need to be explicitly or explicated, means explained in detail. Hopefully not every point requires to be explained in detail, because this book, I wouldn't give it to someone just walking in the door, first of all. I'd give them the Science of Self-Realization, Bhagavad Gita as it is. As I write in the preface, that the teachings of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur are best approached or understood in the modern age through the medium of the books of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It's the same teachings, but presented in a manner that is more suitable for the more stupid people of the present time. People previously who were educated, they were better educated than nowadays, we can see. The mass education has, for various reasons, the level has come down. And we can see from the writing, the standard of writing, not only in India, in the West, everywhere, that it was on a higher level than it is common in the present day. Nowadays, education means you become a proficient Shudra. You become a software engineer. What is a software engineer? It means he's a technical Shudra, that's all. It requires some intelligence, but not the kind of intelligence that will help us to understand Bhaktisiddhanta. So, this book is it's not meant for beginners, and it's meant for, hopefully, people who have some intelligence after being through the educational system, if there's anything left that, and if they've read Prabhupada's books especially, that gives intelligence. As Srila Prabhupada said, ours is an intelligence-giving movement, brain-giving movement. When the accusation came of it would bring a brainwashing movement, Srila Prabhupada said, yes, it's brainwashing because your brain is full of stool. Actually, it's brain-giving because you don't have any brain. This was Srila Prabhupada's response to the accusation. So, anyone who reads this book, by the end, and if they come back to the beginning and they're still asking, well, here's the answer, that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was an empowered representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We often use that term, empowered representative. It's a translation or somewhat translation of Shaktyavesh, avatar. We shouldn't take this term very cheaply or just think that anyone and everyone is an empowered representative. Of course, everyone, whatever power we have to do anything, even to be totally in Maya, even that power comes from Krishna, who's the source of everything. But to be an empowered representative of Krishna, to spread his glories throughout the world, it's not just anyone and everyone. Even among Vaishnavas, some are very special. As was noted by one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's followers, a devotee on the level of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati may appear in this world, hardly a few will appear in this world even in the day of Brahma. So it's not that everyone's on that level of empowerment and realization. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is avatari. He is the Krishna, the fountainhead of all the various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the various Vaishnava Sampradayas, 4 of them, they are listed here. Sri Brahma Rudra Sanak. these 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, they all teach about Krishna, but particularly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the full understanding of Krishna, which the other Sampradayas had not done. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Anarpita chiring chirat karunyavatirno kalo samapiyatamuno tajvala rasa svabhakti shriyam. He comes to give that which is not previously offered, which is unutajvala rasa svabhakti shriyam. Can you all understand it? If you know Indian languages or a little Sanskrit, it's easier to understand it. It's difficult to translate into. Unata means most elevated. Unata in Sanskrit. Ujvala means glowing brightly. Ujvala rasa. This means the rasa, the exchange of rasa, particularly in Vrindavan and particularly between Krishna and the gopis. So unatajvala rasa, svabhakti, bhakti to himself, shriyam, which is beautiful, opulent. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give this, is the fulfillment of all the Vaishnava Sampradayas. It's not in a mundane way we should think, oh, this is better. What the other Vaishnava Sampradayas have given is full and complete and is perfect. But what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives is fuller and more complete and more perfect. Not that there's any lacking. This cannot be understood by mundane intelligence because it's not a mundane fact, it's a transcendental fact. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the first Gauriya Vaishnava Acharya to, actually he began the work of synthesizing the teachings of showing that, demonstrating that. He was the first Gauriya Vaishnava Acharya to publish works of other sampradayas, although we find in Chaitanya Charitamrita itself quotations from the Yamuna Acharya, Stotra Ratnam. So these works were known to Gauriyas previously, but particularly Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made it, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before had visited the places of the various sampradayas, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he met with representatives of the other acharyas, of the other sampradayas. So that's a work in progress that hasn't been followed up practically since the passing of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But he appeared in Puri, where all the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, they have their, or they have had their mutts there, and the Nimbaka Sampradaya is not represented there now as far as I know, but previously it was very prominent in Orissa. And Ramanuja Sampradaya, they still have their mutts there. Gauriyas for Brahma. And Madhvas, they also recognize the importance of Puri Dham. And one of their first acharyas, Narahari Tirtha, he was ruling in that area long ago. So, in brief, I'm just mentioning this in brief, that his appearance in Puri is, all his biographers have noted this point, the significance of his appearance in Puri. So this could be elaborated on much more. But I'll go on to the second question. Again, where's that? On page 241, it is stated. It's in the footnote. Srila Saraswati Thakur, his father was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That's conventionally stated. However, conventionally stated means that, I don't know if they kept records in those, probably they didn't keep government records, but those of you who have had your birth registered, you'll find in the birth certificate there's your father's name, mother's name, isn't it? So, who is your father and mother? It's clear. It's not a question of, there's no doubt about that. It's a fact of this material world. However, so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's father is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But that's not a fact of this material world, because neither of them were material personalities. It's a transcendental event which appeared within this material world, and as materialistic people see everything within this material world as material, because they have no vision of anything else, which is why the acharyas come to give them spiritual vision. And when one has spiritual vision, he will understand that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is not the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the same way that you and I are sons or daughters of our parents. However, as I write in the footnote, Srila Saraswati Thakur never considered Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as an ordinary mundane father. This is further explained in Volume 2, page 204. Nonetheless, following the example of many Gauriya Math publications in referring to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, herein, in other words, in this book, the word father is also used conventionally. Certainly in a wholly transcendental sense, Bhaktivinoda eternally gives birth to Bhaktisiddhanta. So the question is, I did not understand this. Can you kindly elaborate on this? Again, if you read the whole book, then it should become more clear. But anyway, I'll speak on it as it is a very relishable subject, a very important subject, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote in his prayer, his poem, which lists the prominent members of our parampara. He writes therein, parampara jano bhalo mate. He gives the instruction too that we should know the parampara very well. That means we should know who are the members of our parampara, what they did, what were their contributions, what they taught. We should know who is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We should know who is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. To know actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his contributions, who can say what? There's no word. Ananta, that's all. That's the only word. There's no end. It's unlimited. Unfortunately, people of the world don't know about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The Vaishnava Acharyas, they're such great personalities that people don't know. Nowadays, great personality means some politician who's... what is the level of their consciousness? It's lower than that of the ordinary man. But they're great because they're so greedy and shameless and nasty that they can occupy some position by which they can exploit others. And these are considered great people. Or someone, they can hit a ball with a piece of wood and run, and they're considered great. What more evidence is required to show that people in Kali Yuga are very foolish? And what more evidence is required to demonstrate the greatness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Acharyas, that they come to give their gift in this most miserable age. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote so many songs, so many books expressing Bhaktivinoda. Bhaktivinoda, the name gives indication of the joy of bhakti, gives an indication of the transcendental pastimes of Radha and Krishna. The Vinoda of bhakti, the pleasure, the pastimes, all these words. The Vinod gives this term, Vinod gives this indication of all these points. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, among his many contributions, was showing to the small part of the world that was in some way willing to listen to him, demonstrating how this is Vinoda, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. They are the actual pleasure, the nectar for which we are always anxious. Shri Radha Madhava Sarasija Ase Bhaktivinoda. What is that? Shri Radha Madhav Pada Sarasija Ase Bhaktivinoda. What's the last line? Sada Ashe. One word I'm forgetting. Yes. That's just one line from written so many songs. Expressing his desire to be placed at the lotus feet of Sri Radha Madhava. Hari Leela ek matro jaha pramod, bhogarati gai shei bhakati vinod. In many places is expressed his love for the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Hari Leela ek matro. For him whose only joy is Hari Leela, he is singing this in this Bhogarti song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Krishna Bhajane Anukul Pai Jaha Pratiti Boshe Paramashuke Shikara Karye Taha. In many places he's expressed his joy in bhakti. In this song he's described his own daily practices, what he does regularly. He hears the mridanga, he takes prasadam, especially shak, which is very dear to Lord Chaitanya. He worships the deity, he takes charanamrita, he associates with devotees, he serves the devotees. In this way, Bhaktivinoda, in Bhakti Vinod Krishna Bhajane, in the activities of Krishna Bhajan, Anukul Pai Jaha, everything, whatever he finds favorable for the activities of Krishna Bhajan, every day with great bliss, Bhaktivinoda Thakur accepts that. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, although his life was apparently full of suffering, if we see from the external standpoint, full of suffering from his very childhood. He's born in opulent circumstances, but then plague hit his village and the whole village was wiped out. And he suffered so many sickness throughout his whole life. And his first wife died very young, and so much difficulty. But his whole life was full of the bliss of bhakti. So many setbacks in his career, but he's always full of the bliss of bhakti. So Bhaktivinoda eternally gives birth to Bhaktisiddhanta. These names, Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta, they're names, but they're not just names. They are principles also. And the persons who have the names, they are we can understand they're non-different from those principles. Bhaktivinoda is Bhaktivinoda. He is always relishing the bliss of bhakti. Bhaktisiddhanta is always the person, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He is, for want of a better term, the personification. He is Bhaktisiddhanta Murtiman. He is the Bhaktisiddhanta. So these two, they're eternally coexistent. There's no Bhaktivinoda without Bhaktisiddhanta, and there's no Bhaktisiddhanta without Bhaktivinoda. And this, you can take it either way, either meaning the persons or the principles, because they're both eternally coexistent. And they are the same, because Bhaktivinoda is Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktisiddhanta is Bhaktivinoda. It's not that one can have the bliss of bhakti with Apasiddhanta or an incorrect understanding of Krishna consciousness. It's not possible. It may seem like that. And that is the fault of the Prakrita Sahajiyas. They want to have the bliss of bhakti without the proper understanding or following. Therefore they are simply cheating. They are not actual devotees. It might even seem that they are very blissful. But it cannot be. They cannot be the actual bliss of bhakti unless there is Bhaktisiddhanta. It's not possible. It's just a bluff. Many years ago in Bangladesh, I had this realization when I saw a group of kirtaniyas jumping up and down in so-called kirtan, apparently in ecstasy, playing mridangas, kartals, singing with lots of enthusiasm, and singing some completely bogus mantra. This Jai Jagat Bandhu Maha Udharan, I can't remember the whole thing, but it's a mantra in praise of someone who they consider to be the again come, one of the many in Bangladesh, again come incarnations of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu couldn't do his job properly, so he came again. This time, he got it right this time. So it appeared that they're in ecstasy, but they're rascals, because their Siddhanta is completely bogus and offensive. And that was one of the jobs of Bhaktisiddhanta. When I say one of the jobs, it doesn't mean that it's some chore or drudgery. Rupanuga viruddha apasiddhanta dvanta hari. He is the remover of the darkness which is caused by those conclusions, wrong conclusions, those that are not Rupanuga, those that are not in the line of Rupa Goswami. I don't know if all of you can follow all these terms or the concepts, because, like I said, it's not beginner stuff. But you should all know these things. If we're actually going to be Gauriya Vaishnavas, we should know these things. So it may be a little difficult to follow all these concepts. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as I have, is my personal perception, his manner of teaching was that he's presenting, this is bhakti. Now you come up. Come up to this high level. Don't remain down there. Utishta, Jagrata, Prapya Varan Nibodata. Come up, wake up, attain the boon of human life. He was pulling people up. Come up to this level. There's an anecdote related in this book of one person who said that, why are you telling us all these difficult things and not eating fish, and why don't you give us an easier path? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, why, you want to pull me down to your level? Now you come up to this level, you don't pull me down. So that's my perception, and our own Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he presented the same teachings, but he, as he wrote in actually it's transcribed from a lecture of his, he said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches, just like a teacher writes on the blackboard ABC. It's not that he needs to learn it himself, but he writes it for the benefit of beginners. So in the same way, Srila Prabhupada, he lived, especially in the early days, he lived with his disciples and he did everything with them. And he always told them it's very easy, Krishna consciousness is very easy and natural. And both perspectives are correct. But Srila Prabhupada, it was like he was running along with us and taking us by the arm and pulling us along. Whereas Bhaktisiddhanta, as if he was one of us, just showing the life of a devotee. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his stance was showing this book is called Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. Vaibhav means the grandeur and the glory. So he was showing this. For there may be various reasons for that. We can cite various socio-cultural, historical reasons for that, because the Vaishnava cult in Bengal was very the perverse manifestation of it was very degraded. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to show that this is not something degraded. This is not a beggar's religion, as it was often. Vaishnavism in Bengal was often considered a beggar's religion. He wanted to show that this is for the topmost people in all respects. This is for the most learned people, for the most moral people, for the most renowned, spiritually advanced people in all respects. There's one quote in here in which he says, whatever the materialistic people are doing, we should be a little ahead of them. They dress nicely, we should dress better. Little. They live in nice places, we should live in a nicer place. They're learned and educated, we should be more. Just to show that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult, it's not lacking in anything. We're the best in all ways. The Vaishnavas are the kings of the world. The Vishva Vaishnava Raja Sabha. The Vaishnavas, they're the kings of the world. So I wanted to demonstrate this. So, the eternal relationship between Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta. I'm going to take a break here. Please excuse me. I guess the class is supposed to finish now. I didn't even start yet, actually. I mean, that's why I wanted to do this not last night, because this subject, it can go on and on. I don't know how much you want to go on, but I can go on. But actually, you see, we need... This is one book. This actually is one volume of 3, part of a 3-volume set. But we need also very much a study, not in the sense that academic scholars study, but a study means holding on to their lotus feet and begging for the mercy of the Acharya, so that we may convey their gifts to the world. So a Vaishnava study is required of Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, his gifts, his contributions, his teachings. Because actually, anyway, I started again. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was wholly made of Bhaktivinoda. Just like Prabhupada, he always said that I'm simply repeating what I heard from my spiritual master. So the whole Gauriya Math was based on Bhaktivinoda and his teaching. I mean, sometimes people say Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was very heavy, and Bhaktivinoda wasn't so heavy, but actually the writings of Bhaktivinoda, they're also very strong. But he didn't publicly go out and fight like that so much. He was more, you could say, diplomatic. And there are reasons for that also. But in the writings, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was just the same thing in his deprecation. What's an easy word of that? For that, his showing the bad side of all the bogus things. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took that, and Bhaktivinoda, he also gave so many insights into the essence of Gauriya Vaishnavism, which is Madhuryojvala Prem The same terms. Madhurya Ujvala Prem. He gave, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he conveyed that to the world. That's in his pranam mantra. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Madhuryojvala Premadhya Shri Rupa Anuga Bhaktida. There are so many. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praised as Rupa Nugavara, the best of the followers of Rupa Goswami. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he is the giver of that praying which is coming in the line of Rupa Goswami. Anyway, I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes. Please chant. And I'll